Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley here for ellenhutson.com, and in this month's edition of the newsletter, we are talking about pretty little packages. I'm going to be using some products from the stamp market to put these adorable gift boxes together, and I love to create gift boxes to give little treats and to dress up small little gifts. They just make them feel so much more special when you put that handmade touch on them. So I'm starting out with this scallop box die. This is from the stamp market, and I have a piece of Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock, and I'm just adding this to my die cutting sandwich and running this through my Gemini Junior. Now with this die, I do want to mention that you need a piece of paper that's right about 6 inches wide here. So it's a little bit more than a half a sheet. You can see it gives me a little wiggle room. You could maybe get away with a half sheet on this, but I was a little more comfortable using the 6-inch width because it just made my job easier, you know? But you do need 2 of these pieces to create your box. So I've die cut both of those out of the Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock. And I find that when you're working with like a box die or anything with score lines and you need to fold it, I find it helpful to fold it in the opposite direction first before you fold it in the correct direction. So I don't know if that makes sense, but you can see I'm folding them actually up first and then back. Now there's this little area on the bottom where the 2 flaps are connected a little bit, and that's just because of the way that dies have to be manufactured. So I just took my scissors and kind of snipped up between those 2 flaps on both pieces, right up to that bottom score line. It's just a tiny little snip there, and that will help those flaps to move freely. Now, when you're putting your own little gift packaging and boxes together, I like to make sure that I get really nice, crisp fold lines. So once I've kind of done my preliminary folding, I'm going to go back on all of these lines and use a bone folder to make that crease really nice and crisp. This is going to give your box a really nice, finished, kind of professional effect in the end. So if you pay attention to these details along the way, you're going to end up with a beautiful project. So you can see here now I have my Teflon bone folder, and I've already folded these all up, but I am going back over those fold lines with my bone folder and just really making a nice crease on all of those edges. And then I have both of my pieces folded and ready to assemble. So this little flap here, I am taking, and you're looking at the outside of the box here. So this is the correct side. And I'm taking this little flap and I'm adding some strong adhesive to that flap right up to the score line. This is where my 2 boxes are going to connect together. And I'm adding adhesive to both of the flaps. So whatever I'm doing to one side of this box, I'm doing to the other side. Once I have my adhesive in place, I'm going to go ahead and remove the backer from the adhesive, and then I'm going to start lining this up to get it assembled. Now this is another area where paying attention to the details is really going to give you a clean, professional look in the end. So I am making sure that these corners along the bottom, those score lines that need to make that corner, are going to meet up really well. And then those edges along the side of the box are going to be lined up. So I'm just kind of positioning those in place, and I'm taking my time to make sure that I get this right so that my box is not all wonky when I finish. So you can see I'm just kind of getting the 2 bottom corners lined up right here. And then I'm going to make sure these side edges are nice and straight as well. That's going to make my box nice and square. It's going to give it a nice finished professional look in the end. So I have 2 pieces adhered together, and now I need to kind of close this up and make a box. So I have this laid flat once again, and I'm removing the backer from the adhesive that's on the other side flap. And I'm just going to take this and I'm going to fold it over. Once again, you want to make sure that even though you're folding it in place, you're not just slapping it down, but you're paying attention to how those corners and those edges line up so that in the end, your box is nice and clean and finished looking. So once I make sure everything's lined up, I'm going to press that into place, and I have my box shaping up here. Now this is a good point to go ahead and decorate or do stamping on it, or even before you assemble it, if you want to do your stamping or decorating on that, you can do it, depending on what type of embellishments you're going to use. And then you can just close up the bottom when you're ready for this to be fully completed and assembled, and use some adhesive along the bottom. Now for my first box today, I am using the Spring Blossom stamps and dies from the stamp market. And I'm going to take this really big, I think it's a daisy, I don't know, I'm no floral expert. I just know it's a pretty flower. And I'm stamping it in some Altenew blush ink. And then I'm going to take the second layer, which you can actually use on its own as well. I think that is so cool and makes this stamp set really versatile. I'm inking that in some cotton candy ink and stamping that right over the top of the layers. And it's pretty easy to line up. Now I'm taking the coordinating die and I just ran that through my die cut machine to die cut my flower, and I'm using some blackjack ink to stamp the centers. Now I wanted to show you that I actually stamped a bunch of flowers and leaves, and that way I have a bunch on hand. You can throw these in your MISTI and create a bunch at once, and you can see I did it in various colors of pinks and corals, and I have a bunch of those set aside and ready to go for projects. But for this one today, I'm just going to use a few of those. And for the next time I go to create with the stamp set, I have some flowers already stamped. Now for this first box, I did stamp on it before I assembled it. So I am using the confetti background stamp from the Stamp Market. And I'm placing this into my full-size MISTI. And I'm inking up that stamp with some Versamark ink, and I'm stamping it onto my box. And you can see there's a little corner that's actually sticking out that did not get stamped. I'm going to show you how I fixed that. This background stamp, because it is a little more random, is a little more forgiving when you go to line up the extra stamping that you need to do on the edge. So that's something that you might want to consider, kind of using this random type stamping rather than like something that's very linear that might be hard to line up. So you can see I added my embossing powder. I have not heat set this. And then I'm just looking through my MISTI. I inked up part of that background stamp, and then I'm just stamping onto the corner where I have that blank space. Then I added more embossing powder and I heat set the entire thing at once. And I did this to both pieces of the box. But like I said, when you're stamping on these boxes, it's a lot easier to pick something that you can either stamp with an individual block or a random background type pattern that you can line up if the background stamp doesn't cover the entire box. Now I'm going to continue working on some elements for the outside of my box, and I'm using this handwritten thanks stamp set from the Stamp Market, and I absolutely love the writing on this. It's gorgeous. And I'm stamping that in some Versamark ink onto some Neenah Solar White. I'm covering that in some embossing powder and heat setting that. And that's going to tie in with the background that I just embossed on my box as well. And then I am using the coordinating die set to die cut this. Now this coordinating die set has both this kind of outer piece that will die cut this stamped piece, and it also has a more detailed layer, which I think is so cool and makes these products, when they're used together, really versatile. And I actually die cut that outline piece 2 times. I die cut the embossed stamped portion here, and then I also die cut it from some like apricot colored cardstock, and I just kind of layered those up. So now that I have the pieces all ready to go, I'm going to start kind of creating a floral arrangement with that thank you as the focal point. And I'm just using some foam adhesive to put this on the back. I did use a little bit of the Lawn Fawn glue tube as well. And I'm just kind of arranging this until I get it where I like it. And once I have an arrangement that I like, I'm going to use some foam adhesive and place this entire thing onto the box that I created with the embossing. So that finishes off the first box that I'm creating today. And I love this gift box because you can see it's a really good size. You could put a small cupcake in there. You could put some homemade cookies, a big bath bomb. The sky is really the limit on this. And as you can see from the photo here, I actually created a coordinating tag to go on the top of that as well. So that was my first box project, and I am going to create another one, and I am using these fringe banner dies from the Stamp Market. I'm actually using the small one, but it is available in a large one as well. And I'm going to die cut it from some different colors of pink and coral cardstock. Now, this is my lazy way of getting things out of dies. I just throw it onto my desk and it usually falls out. So I'm just letting you know. And when you die cut these little banners, it comes with it creates a score line down the middle of this banner. So you could either use it folded over like this, or you could cut along the score line and get 2 of these little fringe banners for every one pass through your machine. So I'm just gonna make sure that I crease those lines really good. And then I'm using this Hooray stamp. This is from the Hip Hip Hooray stamp set from the Stamp Market. I am stamping it in some Versamark ink onto some Neenah Solar White, and then I am using the coordinating die to die cut that out, and it gives you this really cool, intricate, stamped and die cut sentiment, and I absolutely love that. So I've taken my banners, I've adhered them onto my box, and this is a double layer. I did not cut these in half. I folded them over and used a little adhesive towards the score line to kind of keep them folded over. And I've arranged them onto my box, and now I'm adding just a couple little small twine bows along the top corners of this, and I'm using a little bit of Lawn Fawn glue tube to adhere my bows into place. And then I'm going to take that stamped and die cut sentiment, and I'm going to add a little more liquid glue along the back, and I'm just going to place it onto a strip of vellum. And I'll just trim that down into some angles and use a little bit of foam adhesive behind that and put that right kind of underneath the banners there. I absolutely love these fringe banners. I think they are so much fun and they are so festive. And I love that they're available in a couple of different sizes. So if you wanted to create like a full-size banner, you absolutely could do that with the larger die. Now I wanted to show you the tag really quickly. I used the tagged die set from the Stamp Market to create my tag. And I'm using the little, actually, this is a present stamp from the Hip Hip Hooray stamp set. And I'm just inking up the corner and stamping that along the top of my tag to give me like that banner effect along the top of the tag as well. I'm gonna stamp the Hooray stamp once again along the bottom in the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And then I'm gonna finish this off with a little balloon that I stamped also from the Hip Hip Hooray stamp set. I added that on with some foam adhesive. And now I'm adding a little bit of twine with my glue tube for the balloon string, and that finishes off my second pretty little package today featuring some packaging dies from the Stamp Market. I love that I'm able to take this same box and I'm able to customize it with stamps and dies that I might already have to create a perfect little gift packaging for any occasion. I think it's a lot of fun to play with patterns stamped on these or to create them in different colors. You could do some tone-on-tone stamping on these boxes. Really, the sky's the limit, and they are so customizable. And when you find gift box dies like this that create a pretty substantial sized finished project, I think they're great to add to your stash because you can add so many things and dress up even the simplest of gifts. As always, I will have links to the featured supplies used in these projects in the description at YouTube, but head on over to the Ellen Hutson newsletter blog post. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies used in these projects. As always, I just want to say thank you for stopping by today and for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of our paper crafting and card making video tutorials. Thanks for spending time with me today, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.